The 1904 Olympic Marathon wasn't really a race. It was a survival horror game. It had cheating, gambling, raw poison, and wild dogs. Out of 32 runners, only 14 finished. The man who came in first drove a car. The man who came in fourth took a nap. And the guy who actually won? He was hallucinating on rat poison and brandy, being dragged across the finish line by his trainers. This is the story of the stupidest sporting event in human history. To understand why this happened, you have to understand the venue. 1904 St. Louis, the World's Fair. The Olympics weren't the main event. They were just a sideshow, a little entertainment act to get people to buy tickets for the fair. Because the fair was happening at the same time, the marathon course wasn't closed off. It was the main delivery route for the fair. Thousands of delivery wagons and cars were kicking up dust inches deep. I want to emphasize how dangerous this dust was. It wasn't just annoying, it was lethal. One of the favorites, William Garcia from San Francisco, collapsed halfway through. He didn't just faint. The dust had coated his esophagus and ripped his stomach lining. He was hemorrhaging internally. Doctors said if they hadn't found him that hour, he would have died right there in the dirt. And watching all this was James Sullivan, the chief organizer. He decided to use the runners for a science experiment. He believed water makes you weak. So in 90-degree heat, he provided exactly 2 water stations for the entire 24-mile race. The lineup was eclectic. We had Len Tonyane and Jan Mashiani. They were Tswana tribesmen from South Africa. You might be wondering, why were 2 Tswana tribesmen from South Africa running in St. Louis? They weren't sent there by an Olympic committee. This connects back to our villain, James Sullivan. He was obsessed with something called anthropology days. He basically wanted to pit indigenous people against white athletes to prove scientific racism. They were actually employees at the World's Fair, working in the Boer War exhibit. They spent their days reenacting battles for tourists. They saw the race starting and just decided to run barefoot. Len probably would have won the entire thing if he hadn't been chased a mile off course by a pack of wild dogs. He ran for his life and somehow still finished 9th. Then we have my personal hero, Felix Carvajal, a Cuban mailman. Felix raised money to get to the Olympics, but lost it all gambling in a dice game in New Orleans. He lost every single dollar. He was 700 miles away with 0 money. So he hitchhiked and walked. By the time he arrived in St. Louis, he hadn't eaten a real meal in days. He arrived at the starting line minutes before the gun, wearing a white dress shirt and street shoes. A fellow runner had to use scissors to cut his pants into shorts so he wouldn't pass out. Despite the dress shoes and the starvation, Felix was actually crushing it. But eventually, the hunger caught up with him. He saw an orchard and stopped the race to grab a snack. He found some apples, but they were rotten. Immediately, he got stomach cramps. So, in the middle of the Olympic marathon, Felix lay down on the side of the road and took a nap. He slept for about an hour. He woke up, felt better, and started running again. Spoiler alert, he finished 4th. If he hadn't eaten those rotten apples, the mailman in dress shoes would have won gold. While Felix was napping, the American favorite, Fred Lors, was struggling. At mile 9, Fred got cramps. So, he did the logical thing. He stopped running and hailed a car. Now, modern legends say he drove for 11 miles. But if you look at the actual newspaper reports from the next day, they say he rode for about 3 miles. Either way, he cheated. He waved at spectators as he drove past. But then, karma struck. The car broke down. Refreshed from his nice drive, Fred jogged the last stretch and crossed the finish line first. Alice Roosevelt was about to give him the gold medal until someone yelled, "Hey, didn't I see you in a Buick?" Fred admitted it immediately, claiming it was just a big joke. They banned him for life. While Fred was playing pretend, the real leader, Thomas Hicks, was dying. He wanted to quit, but his trainers wouldn't let him. They decided to give him a mixture of egg whites, brandy, and strychnine. Strychnine is rat poison. By the last mile, Hicks was hallucinating. He thought the finish line was still 20 miles away. His trainers were literally carrying him, dragging his feet across the line while he stared blankly into space. He won the gold medal, then he immediately collapsed. Doctors said if he had taken one more dose of medicine, he would have died on the spot. At the end of the day, out of 32 runners, only these 14 men actually finished. There is our hero Felix, 4th place, even after the gambling, the dress shoes, and the rotten apples. And look at numbers 9 and 12, Lentau and Yamasani, the first Black Africans to ever compete in the Olympics. Despite the racism and the dogs, they beat half the field. And at number 1, Thomas Hicks, the man who was poisoned to victory. We will never see a race like this again, and honestly, that is probably a good thing.